Okay, guys. We can do it. We can make it through this. Together! Hey!
The continent's beginning to peel off of its surface. Strangely, I'd always considered Equestria to be flat.
What?
I looked around.
Well, I mean...
The last lesson taught in this room was...
Okay, given what we know, and given what we've seen in the recent seasons, Equestria probably is flat. Now, I don't mean that in like the traditional way people thought, where it's like, oh, if you go to the edge, you'll fall off. No, 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 no. I don't mean that. Instead, I mean that, in fact, there probably is no edge. Like, you could go as far as you want in any direction, you'll just keep going. Because I think Equestria is a plane. What I mean by that is, no, you jackasses out there, because I know you're there. I don't mean like planes as an airplane. I mean like a plane as in a plane of reality. It's a D&D term, from Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder. You have planes. Now, some worlds are like spherical, round ones, but like some of them are planes, as in they are infinite. They are literally infinite, because they just keep going on and on. No matter how far you go in one direction, you will never ever wrap around, because there is nothing to wrap around on. It's not a planet. That is the only way I can imagine Equestria's fucking sun moon thing working. Because if it worked like normally and Equestria was a normal planet, like fuck no, like everyone would be dead. Like god damn, the way the sun and moon work. So no, what does that mean for the sun and moon? It means that no, the sun is not a giant burning ball of gas. And it means that the moon is not a giant rock in the sky. It means that they are meta-magical representations. This is also why the world would not die if if it was eternal night. Because that's not how the world works. I mean, that's not actual physical sunlight. It's some kind of magical representation of sunlight. So the plants and stuff would actually be okay under eternal night. Because the sun and moon don't actually exist as we know them. So that's why Nightmare Moon's Eternal Night plan would not result with everyone dying, because instead it's working like a D&D plane. In that case, it's all magical and metaphysical and shit. So go Nightmare Moon! Eternal Night! Fuck the sun, it's bright and hurts my eyes.
Was apparently astronomy, as the chalkboard still bore a diagram of, if I was reading it correctly, the single path on which the sun and moon circled our world. This was not something the science classes in Stable 2 had covered. We had learned instead about mechanics and robotics, arcane science and spellcraft.
Yeah,
I'd sometimes pondered where the sun went when Celestia put it away, imagining it was all hidden beneath us, possibly taking a nap. If this diagram was true, then Celestia was sending it to another part of the world to make it day, someplace else. I wondered if that was the faraway land where the zebras lived. Or maybe the place where the dragons originally came from. Did that mean that Nightmare Moon had locked them in eternal day, slowly roasting them alive? And how messed up did things have to be now in order for the Pegasi to occasionally see the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time? Unbelievable, Velvet Remedy intoned. I turned to see that I was not the only pony distracted by the contents of the room. Velvet had trotted up the steps that ran alongside the rising rows of chairs on the side of the room opposite the blackboard. At the top, near another doorway, were several posters. Velvet was staring at one which featured a very small filly, magically projecting a shield around herself and her family as an evil-looking zebra lowered a stick of dynamite towards her with a fishing pole.
Yeah.
They were
Okay,
actually teaching children to use their shield spells to protect themselves from a mega-spell attack.
Velvet Remedy stomped. From the poster, I gleaned that the spell was one of the very first taught to any unicorn who had the capacity to learn it.
They might as well have been telling them to hide under their desks.
Remedy, there ain't no desk in this room, Calamity pointed out. Velvet Remedy swung around and saw the rows of chairs in the lectern. There was not a single desk in sight. She sighed.
Not the point.
Maybe Celestia just didn't want them scared, I offered. I had to imagine that telling the children a lie that allowed them to believe there was something they could do was kinder than leaving them feeling helpless.
Yeah, kinda.
Or was my belief just born of corrupted kindness?
Oh, fuck off!
I grunted, absolutely hating Trixie.
Yeah.
Red lights started to pop up on my EFS compass, several of them converging on the door next to Velvet Remedy.
Velvet!
I hissed, motioning her towards me before pointing warningly at the door. Calamity, now wearing his battle saddle, flew into position, covering the door. I whispered up a prayer to the goddess Celestia that ended up becoming more of an apology
Ghoul
for shooting her in the
kids!
face.
Oh man, is it going to be a bunch of little ghoul kids? Oh, that's fucked.
The door opened, and I felt myself go numb. It was a small, canterlot ghoulized unicorn child. Her school filly uniform melted into her flesh. There were several more behind her, all colts and fillies, locked in the endless routine of going to and from their exams. Until they spotted us, and the air filled with a sound more horrifying than any I could imagine. A wordless sound of unadulterated and monstrous aggression from a chorus of achingly childlike voices.
Called it.
No. Celestia have mercy. I was frozen, my eyes locked onto the monster children. I couldn't do this.
Oh, come on. They're not people anymore.
Calamity fired, the twin bullets from his battle saddle tearing into a filly's head, blasting most of her brains onto the Remember Your Shield poster. Turning to the rest of us, he yelled, "What are y'all waiting for?" I knew they weren't really children. I knew they were, at best, feral animals, and that they would kill us if we didn't fight or run. But my body refused to do either. Calamity fired again. Next to me, Velvet cast her anesthetic spell on a young colt, only to moan as the spell had no apparent effect. Even Steelhooves seemed to have faltered for a moment, but now I heard the ports of his missile launcher opening. Whoosh. Kaboom. 2 rockets fired at an upward angle and exploded against the ceiling, bringing large chunks of it raining down on the creatures, children, below, along with half of a row of chairs from the classroom above us. I stumbled back as 2 colts and a filly were crushed under the collapsing ceiling, the little pony on my head sickly wondering if that had killed them or just inconvenienced them even after the lights went out on my EFS compass. "Little Pip," Steelhooves commanded. "Get us up there." Up there? I felt like I was thinking through sludge.
Come on, get your shit
"Now,"
together.
he bellowed, snapping me out of my stupor. Calamity swooped past me, firing again as another Canterlot zombie colt galloped through the open door and leapt over the rubble towards us. The twin shot hit the monster child in the side, knocking him back into the chairs. I wrapped my levitation field around the rest of us, and levitated us up through the ceiling. Behind me, I heard the sinister warping sound that signaled one of the fallen cloud children was rising back up, filled with necromantic life. I poked my head out of the classroom, looking both ways down the corridor. I kept expecting the zombie children to appear, but there were no hostile lights on my EFS compass. I couldn't tell if they were trying to get up to this level, or if they had ceased pursuing us the moment they could no longer see or hear us. Literally out of sight, out of mind. The hallway provided a new danger. The air was filled with a pink haze, which grew thicker towards a ventilation grate in the ceiling. I could just make out the large metal fan behind that grate, warped and fused with the metal of the shaft itself. The dense patch didn't look particularly large, but it was slowly growing. "Steelhooves," I instructed, closing the door. "We need you to scout ahead. Find the shortest path into another cloudless section of the building." The Steel Ranger outcast nodded. I opened the door long enough for him to gallop through, then closed it again. "Hey, Pip," Calamity said, his voice almost a whisper. "I'm pretty sure one of the first Ministry buildings is the Ministry of Magic. I'm thinking we should pop in there and grab ourselves some proper magical energy weapons.
Hell
just
yeah.
in case we have to deal with a bunch more Candlelight ghouls."
I just said that last video. Like, get your shit some energy weapons.
"Here we go," I sighed, groaning inside and forcing myself not to face off. "Well, magical energy guns are a mite better against the Candlelight ghouls than what we're packing. Steals aside, that is," Calamity reasoned, altogether too reasonably. "And we shouldn't be relying on him to bring down the house every time we face more monsters."
And for that matter,
Velvet Remedy chimed in,
we really need to stop in the Ministry of Peace. It's right across the way, and we could definitely use the medical supplies. Especially if you end up fighting with those alicorns.
It's all
"Of
true.
course we do." I turned to both of them.
Look, the more sightseeing we do, the longer and more dangerous this trip becomes. We're already taking far longer than I wanted to just to get out of the first building. All the more reason to get extra medical supplies while we can. You know the Ministry of Peace will have supplies somewhere.
I nodded. Somewhere. That's the problem. You're not talking about a brief stop, either of you. You're talking about exploring those buildings. Velvet Remedy nodded.
I know that, and I know it's dangerous, but I'm worried.
No, you just want to see Fluttershy's ministry. Velvet took a step back, feigning a wounded heart. My expression was unmoving.
Okay, fine. Yes, I do. But I am also worried.
She insisted.
About Steelhooves.
Steelhooves? Calamity echoed. Why are you worried about him? The guy can survive anything, up to and including the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Velvet
got
Remedy
quite a
rolled her
resume.
eyes.
He's immortal, not indestructible. That armor might repair itself, but how do we know he's okay inside? The only things that heal ghouls are radiation and healing potions, and that suit of his is designed to self-administer. Now, the last time he restocked his armor's medicine dispensary was Stable 29. And since then, he's been shot through with anti-tank rounds, fallen a few hundred feet, and gone through whatever he was put through in Zebra Town.
Look, Velvet, if Steelhooves was in trouble, he'd tell us.
No, he wouldn't.
Calamity said.
No, he wouldn't.
Would he?
Velvet questioned. I found myself caught, unable to decide which of my friend's flaws were at play here. Velvet Remedy's excessive worries, or Steelhooves' stubborn stoicism. I suspected this was the other problem that Velvet had claimed Steelhooves was being. I couldn't blame her for being concerned.
Yeah.
Best case, she was a doctor who was being denied the ability to examine a patient, and the Wasteland wasn't in the habit of serving up best cases very often. I was beginning to kick myself for having taken Steelhooves' durability for granted. Well, they were gummies.
But that was before he got shot.
Velvet Remedy reminded the Pegasus.
Afterwards, you only came back long enough to pick us up.
Damn. Calamity rubbed his brow under his hat. I reckon you might be onto something there. Turning to me, he suggested. Lil Pip, maybe you ought to run a diagnostic on his armor and see just what state our friend is in. For all we know, he might be really torn up under all that steel.
Oh man, I feel so bad.
I looked at the door, wishing Steelhooves was back already.
Okay. Ministry of Peace and Ministry of Magic. But only the fastest looks, and only until we find what we need. Targeted missions. No sightseeing.
They both nodded. Then Velvet Remedy added,
Actually, I was really hoping we could take a peek in the goddess's castle, too.
I face-huffed.
No.
Oh, you know you want to.
I gasped, collapsing against the storage room shelving, the impact sending several boxes of cleaner toppling down on my head as I fought for breath. My heart struggled in my chest. Velvet Remedy slammed the door closed behind her, the last one in. She crashed into Steelhooves, bouncing between him and the workbench Calamity had curled up on before falling to her knees.
I can't believe you've done that to yourselves before.
She gasped wretchedly. Velvet began passing around healing potions. Under the police station was much worse, Calamity moaned, downing his potion. Why do you think I saw blowing up the boiler as a better alternative? Velvet groaned shakily.
Forgiven.
She floated her own potion to her lips and drank greedily. I drank the potion Velvet had passed to me and closed my eyes, waiting for the healing effects to begin to mend my cloud-ravaged body. Velvet passed a second round of potions, and I could see that the stop in the Ministry of Peace would be truly necessary after all. Weakly, I slid myself across the floor to Steelhooves. Lay down, soldier, I demanded, hurting too much to perform the social dance that friendship and civility required. Steelhooves obeyed without question, accidentally knocking over a row of plungers with his armored tail. I pulled a tool from my barding and jacked my pit buck into his armor, running a diagnostic. Steelhooves' displeasure at this invasion of privacy was radiating off of him, but he didn't move or speak. The little pony in my head began to panic when my pit buck started flashing medical alerts across my EFS. I fought to keep my little pony calm as I worked to strip away the alarms that were probably false.
How the
My
fucking
Pip-Buck's
name
medical
drop.
spell was not calibrated towards ghouls, much less whatever physiology was normal for cantor-like ghouls. I wished I had Velvet Remy's understanding of medicine, although considering her reaction to ghouls, that might not be much help. The one thing I could say for sure was that Steelhill's armor was completely out of healing supplies, and apparently had been out since partway through Zebra Town.
Oh.
The stallion was keeping himself going on painkillers and combat drugs, most of which were also nearly depleted. What had he been planning to do when these ran out? Hell, one of his legs was broken in multiple places. The armor was just holding it together like a cast.
It's like the Berserk armor.
Not okay, I told him sternly, feeling like I was wearing Velvet Remedy's horseshoes. He said nothing.
If you're in trouble like this, you need to tell us.
I'll be fine, he finally said. But I noticed he wouldn't look at me when he said it. The damn thing was, he probably would be so long as he didn't get himself permanently killed, or before he could resupply his armor. Between now and then, however, was a whole world of pain. The painkillers were handling a lot of it right now, but not all of it, and they too would be gone soon. This felt like self-punishment. Maybe for what happened on Buckland Bridge. Or maybe because of bad memories. Wounds and regrets that coming here into Zebra Town have made fresh again.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
I could point out that when the painkillers stopped, the pain might hamper him, putting us all at risk. That was the sort of argument I knew he would listen to and accept. But it was also cold and selfish. Steelhills was our friend, and he deserved better than that. I needed something to say that would show that we cared, and yet would still be persuasive in his ears. I looked to Velvet Remedy for help, only to be reminded of our argument about the Fluttershy orb. Velvet Remedy was escaping. Steelhills was abusing himself. I looked up at Calamity, and wondered if he was doing any better. Calamity seemed fine, but then so had Steelhills until I took a deeper look. At least Zenith was okay, right?
Nah!
No. Zenith never really seemed okay. After what she had been through, I would be surprised if there was an okay in her world that even vaguely resembled the one in our own. Her freak out of being bitten was still fresh in my mind, but at least she was getting better, I thought, rather than worse. Although at the time we had left, Zenith had still not admitted to Zephyr that she was her mother. Was that just Zenith being a zebra? Or was it a warning sign? Something else I had missed?
Yeah, probably.
Steelhills pushed himself back up, disconnecting his armor from my Pip-Buck. I should go. Go where? Out, he replied, to find the next room that is clear of the cloud. Velvet Remedy tossed up her shield, the shimmering screen of magic filling the hallway just in time for the 3 baby dragons to slam into it. The little wingless creatures growled and clawed at the shield, their eyes glowing, their faces distorted by rage.
Oh, aren't they cute?
Velvet cooed. She got a resounding no from the rest of us. More trouble at our fore, Calamity warned. I spun around. From the other end of the hall, several colts and fillies emerged from the stairwell. The lead filly had another cloud-ruined baby dragon on her back.
Oh.
I stared at the filly, my eyes drawn to.
Little Pip, what are you staring at?
In black horror, I hissed.
Look at her cutie mark.
The school filly's tattered uniform gave a clear view of the blob of dark pink that emblazoned the cloud child's flank. I reeled at the implications. The child had gotten her cutie mark after the mega spell, after she had died.
Yeah, how's that
That
work?
the cloud had transformed the poor little filly into an undying monster was horrific enough. But somehow, the idea that it had warped and corrupted her to the point that the pink cloud had stolen from her what should have made her special, and replaced that with itself, was somehow so much crueler, so much more.
Did it? Did it really? Or what if that is her destiny? I don't know. They're both horrifying implications. I like the second one, though. I like mine version better.
Abhorrent. The child horror lowered her head, her horn glowing a violet pink. Thick wisps of pink cloud snaked out of the air around her glowing horn, swirling as it filled the corridor. The filly was actually conjuring pink cloud. The baby dragon jumped off of her back and began charging at us, its little claws tearing at the hallway carpeting.
You know what's really amazing about this is they still have a level of cognitive thinking that far exceeds normal ghouls. Like, how the to cast magic like that, we learned that magic is a scientific principle in the show, and to conjure magic like that requires a level of higher thinking that the feral ghoul does not have. And furthermore, the baby dragon riding on its back, knowledgeable enough to, hey, get off it now, and knowledgeable enough to ride, coupled with the fact that it has a cutie mark, mixed with the fact that the baby dragons earlier could speak and could demand stuff. Like, these aren't feral creatures. These are highly intelligent beings. I don't think the pink cloud stole her cutie mark. I think that's just her natural, actual cutie mark. Like, yeah, damn.
The twin shot from Calamity's battle saddle echoed through the hallway. The baby dragon's body ragdolled against the wall. A moment later, the tendrils of pink began to reach us. Immediately, my head swam, my headache spiking. I backpedaled, trying to get away, only to hit Velvet Remedy's shield. The 3 baby dragons behind us gave little roars of anticipation and violent desire. "What?" Calamity coughed. "Is with the rest of you all?" The Pegasus dropped to the ground, unable to keep flying as the pink cloud began to eat at its insides.
Ooh!
He fired blindly into the pink.
"They're not really children."
I could hear the cloud children galloping down the hall towards us. All I could see was pink and black, the edges of my vision beginning to go dark. My EFS compass was showing nothing but a mass of blurry red. Every breath seemed to shrivel my lungs, making me fight harder to get half the air I could breathe the breath before. Velvet Remedy collapsed beside me, her shield going down. One of the baby monsters leapt at me, claws scratching my barding and digging wet scratches in my flesh, its teeth sinking into my mane, trying to tear at the back of my neck. Sealhooves opened fire in the hallway. I curled up as best as I could, and was pelted with concussive waves and shrapnel from the close quarters explosions. The blasts left my ears ringing, my sense of direction and balance shot to hell. But they also thinned the cloud. My gut was twisting, my insides felt like they had begun to rot, but my headache cleared just enough that I could focus. I floated out little Macintosh, aiming it at the small monster gnawing on my back, and fired. I felt the creature drop from my back, the poor thing which should have been allowed to grow up, to be a
fuck
dragon.
off.
Velvet Remedy was curled into a ball, crying. The 2 other baby monsters were trying to eat her. Her body was a tapestry of shallow, bleeding scratches. I fired twice more, getting them off of her, and stumbled to my hooves. Somehow, dreadfully, it was easier for me to shoot these creatures than the monsters who took the form of children. As if the fact they had never grown old enough to talk or think like people made it more okay to treat them as rabid animals.
Yeah, sure, why not?
My eyes forward sparkle was flashing medical warnings. Even thin, the pink cloud was killing me. I needed to get out before my internal organs started to shut down. Wrapping Velvet in my magic, I galloped as fast as my legs and lungs would let me. A staggering trot, trying to get out of the pink. Behind me, Calamity fired once more, then pivoted and followed, stumbling as he attempted to run. The air filled with that noisome grating sound as the eyes of the baby dragon Calamity had shot began to glow, and it began to growl.
"Get to the top."
Our Applejack's ranger called back to us.
"I'll hold them here. None shall pass."
Yeah!
We're down to the last of our healing potions.
Velvet Remedy warned softly, tears in her eyes. I groaned as I drank the potion she floated over.
Okay, look. Maybe I'm just being callous. You know, maybe I am a cold, callous individual. But I genuinely don't see the problem with shooting the little monsters. Okay, maybe... Okay, thank God. I grew up with stuff like zombie fiction and, you know, zombie movies and video games with zombies and shit. Like House of the Dead. I loved House of the Dead. I love it. I love the series. Played all the way up to 4, I did. Wait, no, fuck. Sorry, not 4, 3. The one with the shotguns. So, you know, maybe I'm just, like, desensitized to the whole idea of feral zombies being people. Like, fuck, it's a zombie child. Okay, zombie child, yeah, but still zombie. Shoot the fucker. Aim for the head, little Pip. That's my advice.
Over to me. We hadn't even made it to Ministry Walk yet.
And I still haven't had a chance to restock Steel's armor.
I watched as the slashes of red that covered Velvet closed gently, mending themselves before my eyes, looking her completely unmarred, yet still covered in her own blood. The mare swayed despondently, then curled up next to Calamity on the large bed in the center of the room. The large circular room had no windows, but both the fireplace and the chute provided means for the pink cloud to enter the room. Fortunately for us, a magical ventilation spell had prevented the pink cloud from pulling in here, leaving the air only the slightest shade of pink.
Still
Survivable
pink.
levels of pink, so long as none of us fell asleep in here. The administrator's room had been a lovely room once, a solemn room of violets and blues with a mural of clouds drifting along the wall, and a delicate ornateness to every feature and piece of furniture. Ghosts of that beauty remained in the greasy rot of the carpet, bed, and tapestries. A golden scroll-shaped stand leaned against one wall next to a crumbling bookshelf filled with decayed books, and the residue of several dissolved scrolls. Next to the center of the bed was another golden stand, this one holding a terminal, its screen glowing softly still. The door into this room had been one of the hardest locks I'd ever encountered. I expected no less difficulty from the terminal.
It just isn't right.
Velvet Remedy choked, leaning against Calamity.
All those children, those little baby dragons.
Oh, shut up.
Calamity wrapped a wing around her as she began to sob again.
They didn't deserve this. None of them deserved this. It's just so unfair.
It was worse than unfair. This was evil. I felt a bubbling rage simmering into my beating heart. But there was no pony to be angry at. I couldn't be mad at the victims, and the zebras, possibly ponies too, who created and deployed the megaspell. All of them were long dead. No, I was furious with the pink cloud itself. How dare it?
How?
I began to hack, trying to focus.
It's an
not wanting to
inanimate
take my
object,
frustrations out
little
of the
Pip.
terminal, lest I make a mistake and get locked out.
And yeah, you could totally be mad at dead people.
Little Pip,
Velvet said softly.
Little Pip, you could totally be mad at dead people. People are still pissed at Hitler.
if the megaspell is still working here, still pouring out this poison,
Her eyes closed, her trembling voice finding determined steel.
we need to stop it.
Yeah!
I nodded. The password was apologies. My host was checking his watch. The little hoof pointed to 7, the big one just a few minutes past the hour. It was either late morning or less than an hour from midnight. I had no way of knowing. The hallway is a cold gray metal with no windows, yet it felt like night. A soft chime from behind drew my host's attention. He turned as the elevator doors opened, party music playing over the speaker in the room. The elevator seemed empty. My host stepped away, watching cautiously. The elevator doors closed again, cutting off the sound of music. I could barely hear the soft hum as the elevator began to descend. My host looked to the left. Empty hallways, no doors, ending with the heavy steel door of a vault. He looked to his right. A magical field of blue light shimmered in front of the iron gate. The room beyond was filled with humming mainframes.
I apologize for running late.
An exotic voice said from the nothingness, sounding slightly muffled. First, the head of the zebra appeared as she pulled back her hood. Then the rest of her.
I did not mean to make you wait.
I felt my host press his lips together. That's all right, Zecora, but you'll have to hurry. Security will cycle any minute now. When it does, we've arranged for the shield to drop, but it will only be down for a few minutes. You'll have to get in, get the data, and get out. I saw my head turn away as I fished a key out of the pocket of my security uniform. This will get you through the gate. You know which system you're looking for, right? Zecora nodded. A sad look formed on her face.
I ask if this is worth the cost. The lives of ponies will be lost.
I felt a frown edge across my host's muzzle. We have to be willing to make sacrifices if we're going to end this war. Your success here will get you the Kaisar's trust, and that will allow you to get close to him. My host stepped back. But if it helps, I'm sure they will arrange for the weapons factories and those schematics to have minimal staff when the zebras hit them. My host's frown turned into a grimace. Unfortunately, we've had a small complication. Zecora raised an eyebrow. They've installed some sort of new gemstone detector, something from the Ministry of Image, of all places. It's designed to detect zebra talismans like your cloak, and it's not part of the normal security system, so we can't shut it down without raising alarms. You'll have to remove your cloak before going in.
I will not need it once I'm in there, so I will leave it in your care.
Zecora slipped out of her cloak, now wearing only a satchel. She looked strangely naked without the jewelry I'd seen her wearing before. The shield of blue energy suddenly went down. My host sucked in a breath. Quickly, strike me down. Hard. Zecora spun and bucked at my host. One hoof caught him squarely in the chest, cracking at least one rib. The other sank hard into the soft flesh of his neck. Zecora's eyes widened as I collapsed, choking, fighting for air. She had clearly not intended to land a possibly fatal blow. My host waved her on, coughing and fighting to remain conscious. Zecora galloped down the hall. I heard her unlock the gate and pull it open, but my vision was blurring. I sat there, fighting harder and harder, trying to breathe, air struggling to get through my throat into my chest. I heard the chime behind me. The door opened and an apple-green stallion in tuxedo barding stepped out, looking around. Apple snack.
Okay, well, I'm cutting that there.